Hello, welcome to Zaumoyo program. Remember, we bring you nothing but the best topics that discuss health. Today, we have a special topic that talks about HIV. HIV continues to threaten the health of many people worldwide. In Zambia, HIV prevalence rate stands at 11.1%, with an estimation of 2 million people living with HIV, and 1.5 million are on treatment. To understand this topic better, I have with me a doctor. Welcome, Doc.
Thank you so much, Jubal.
Okay, you can introduce yourself and tell the people watching out there what you do.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Mildred Zimbarashe. I'm the district medical mentor in the HIV/TB program here in Eastern Province in Chipata.
Okay. Doc, first thing first, what is HIV?
So, HIV in simple terms, Jubal, is one of the germs. You know how right now we're talking about cholera, which is caused by bacteria. So different diseases are caused by different germs. So HIV is a virus. Since there's bacteria, there are viruses and there are parasites. So this virus is a virus that affects the human body in such a way that it reduces on the immune system, meaning the strength to fight infection. HIV stands for Human Immunodeficiency Virus. If it's untreated, it develops into what's known as AIDS. And most people know it as AIDS. It stands for Acquired Immunodeficiency Syndrome, which is the advanced form of the disease.
Okay, so what are some of the causes of HIV?
I like to think about it this way. So if you don't have a driver in the driver's seat, a car won't move. So we have some of the drivers of HIV. So how someone can get infected basically has to do with coming into contact with infected blood or body fluids. This can happen through sexual transmission, through unprotected sexual intercourse, or through sharing needles. So some people may choose to share drugs that are not administered in the hospital. By so doing, they are transmitting the virus because there's no protection there. Sometimes if a sharp object is used by one person who's infected and another person is also cut, then HIV can be transmitted. Then another method is through mother to child. So when a woman is pregnant and perhaps they're not on treatment, the likelihood of passing the virus to the baby is quite high. Now, I must just say that we've made a lot of strides in that area, because just by virtue of being pregnant, it doesn't mean that the baby will catch the virus. There are ways of making sure that the baby stays HIV negative, even if the mother is positive. So, for example, the mother needs to be on treatment, and there are certain tests that we do even after the baby is born. They can breastfeed, but there are ways that we make sure that the infection transmission is really low.
Okay, so you have of course mentioned mothers, women, but which gender is mostly vulnerable to acquiring or just having HIV?
Okay, so there was a recent study that was done just here in Zambia. So this study was focusing on HIV and how many people are affected. So it released some interesting statistics. Women mostly were affected, and I think there are many reasons because, as mentioned, pregnant breastfeeding women. So the pregnant women, we know that they are at risk because for them to fall pregnant, they are sexually active. And then when we look at the young girls as well, Jubal, these are young women who are in the adolescent years who may not yet know how to negotiate for safer sex. So they are also quite vulnerable. So as much as the statistics show that we had more women than men, some of the adolescent young men are also at risk. So we can't leave them out completely because they're also growing. They could also be vulnerable. So there are certain at-risk populations as well. It may not be legal in Zambia, but in some countries where it's legal, men who have sex with men are at a greater risk as well. And as we mentioned, the younger population, basically.
And now, since you've mentioned about the higher risk, especially when it comes to sex, intergenerational sex. I know there has been a lot of talk, but how do we understand it?
Yeah.
How are the young people and the older generation maybe entangling themselves?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting discussion point because for various reasons, the older men are attracted to younger women. And the younger women may not really be mature enough to negotiate for options that will protect themselves from contracting HIV. So, for example, we can imagine a university student who sees their friends with material possessions that they like. They may not think about the risk of HIV or other sexually transmitted infections, and they expose themselves. So, with the intergenerational sex, it is one of the drivers of HIV infection. And I think a lot of health talk has been made in that area, targeting the young women and the young men as well, so that they know how to protect themselves and they know how to say no, they know how to react when circumstances are beyond them, so that they protect themselves.
Okay. When it comes to the statistics, what are the rates that are associated with HIV? Maybe at national level, bringing it down to Eastern Province.
Okay, so I'll refer to the same study that I'd mentioned earlier. It's called the Zaumoyo study.
Yes.
It was done recently in 2021. So, and it was more of a household study where they surveyed populations within the households in all the provinces.
Yeah.
So when we talk about prevalence, we're talking about the number of positive people in the entire community. So for example, when they sampled the different provinces, the most cases or the highest prevalence was found in Western Province, about 13%, followed by Lusaka, Southern Province. For us as Eastern Province, we were number 7 at about 7%. So about 7 out of the 10 provinces. So that would be the prevalence in terms of where we are as Eastern Province.
Okay. Are we doing well to be found at the 7th position?
That actually means we're doing well in comparison because we don't have as high a number of cases as the other provinces. And I think this has to do with how the government has really invested through the Ministry of Health in, first of all, health talks. And then like what we're doing right now.
Yes.
And also the availability of ARVs. So ARVs are available. And as long as people are brave enough to come and get tested, because testing is free after all. And once they know their status, it's easy to start medication through counseling and support. That's how we are able to keep the prevalence rate lower than.
Okay. Now, in terms of real numbers, how many are on treatment, like, let's say, Eastern Province right now, as we speak?
Okay, so for the numbers that are on treatment currently, I do have the numbers for the pediatric population.
Okay.
I took keen interest in the pediatric population for some of the reasons we were talking about earlier, mother-to-child transmission. So those who are less than 15 in Eastern Province are about 3,500.
Okay.
So these are the ones who are accessing medication. But mind you, this does not include those that have not yet come for testing. And this does not include those who may know their status but are not on medication. So the encouragement would be that everybody who does not know their status has to come and get tested so that they too know their status.
How do you look at the children that are born with HIV and their accessibility to health facilities? How accessible is it, and maybe just how are they able to, come to the facility and access these services?
Right. So we've made many strides in terms of trying to take away the stigma. For an old person or an adult, it's easy for them to make that decision whether to come to the clinic or not. But a young person, let's look at a very young child who's maybe in primary school, who depends on the caregiver to bring them. So what we've done is we tried to make certain times available to them, times outside of the normal clinic schedules. For example, if they're going to school, we can open the clinic on a weekend specifically for them. We can try and meet them in the community where possible, or try and liaise with their schools to see if they're able to assist them and make sure that they're not stigmatized against. In terms of the clinic setup itself, there's certain days that are specifically for children where toys are brought out and they have fun. Maybe not so much for the adolescents, But for the younger ones, they're able to play with their toys, they look at their friends playing, and it's a fun day for them. Then coming to the adolescents, we have adolescent support groups that are available, not only during weekdays, but even on weekends, so that they can talk about HIV, they can talk about the medication in a setting that's informal, and even encourage one another.
Now, Doc, I know in our preamble we spoke about HIV turning into AIDS.
Yeah.
Before we go to AIDS, maybe you can take us through some of the stages that maybe ART is given to the people that are living with HIV. How many stages are there, and what causes them to move from first stage to the second or third?
Thank you, Javel. So basically, when someone tests positive, meaning the test has come out positive for HIV, they need to start medication as soon as possible, because we don't know at what point they were infected. So our goal, or the goal of ART, which is the antiretroviral therapy, is to make sure that the number of viruses in the body is very low, and we want it to be less than 1,000, because at that point the individual can live a healthy life, the immune system will be healthier, and they cannot transmit the virus to anyone else. So once tested and found positive and treatment is started, in about 6 months we can get to that level where the viral load, which is the number of viruses, is less than 1,000.
Yeah.
Should someone choose to delay starting treatment, or perhaps just refuse outright to start treatment, that puts them at risk of the virus multiplying in the body at a very fast rate. And the body's defense system, which is the immune system, also deteriorates quite quickly. Then other diseases can actually affect them. These are known as opportunistic infections that otherwise wouldn't actually affect them. So the tests that we can do, the blood test that we do, one of them is CD4 count, to see how advanced they are in terms of the HIV. So a number that we look out for is 200. So if they have a CD4 of above 200, we know they're okay.
Yeah.
Other pointers are how the patient looks. There's certain skin conditions, certain chest infections, certain cancers that shouldn't occur even if someone is HIV positive. But you find the patient or the person living with HIV who is not on treatment or does not take their treatment every day like they should may end up having those conditions, which is what we avoid. And the take-home message would be, we need to be on treatment. The moment a person living with HIV finds out they're positive, they need to be on treatment, because no one can know that they're positive, because then they'll look like anyone else. They can live a normal life. If it's the young people, they get a chance to go to school and achieve their dreams because they're healthy like everybody else.
Okay. As we are coming to our end of discussion with you, of course, on this program, maybe you can highlight and maybe give your understanding on the issue of HIV not having a cure. How does that make you feel? For a long time we have had research and research, vaccines coming up. Its efficacy is sometimes so little that you wonder, are we going back from the past, or are we moving forward to finding the cure?
So like I said earlier, Jubo, I feel there have been great strides that have been made. I'll just touch on the fact that these days you can't even tell that someone is on treatment. So that in itself is a big plus. Back in the day, you could tell someone has lost a lot of weight or they've got skin conditions. Immediately you could tell. But because we have these drugs, the antiretroviral therapy, which in most cases for adults is just a single tablet, and the fact that they're readily available. So the ministry has made sure that they're available and they're free. So for me, in terms of treatment versus cure, I feel the fact that treatment is available is a plus. In terms of cure, we can't completely remove the virus from the body, so that is why the treatment itself is lifelong. But the good news is that with treatment, one is healthy. One prevents the other infections that could possibly affect them, and the quality of life is drastically improved. In actual sense, it's improved by a huge margin. So I feel the absence of a cure is not really a point of discouragement, but however, focusing on the fact that treatment is available is actually a source of hope.
Okay, Doc, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You have been a great source of information.
Thank you, Joel.
Yeah, I will now let you go, but we'll be joined with a special someone that you're going to actually interact with right now. Like I said, we are joined by a special someone. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you can introduce yourself and just a short bio about you.
My name is Raymond Tapiseni. Yes, I'm 27 years old, turning 28 this year.
Okay.
Sure. I come from a family of 6. I'm the 5th born. Yes, and I'm a registered nurse by profession.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, that's nice. So, maybe you can tell us what has made you to go into activists of HIV?
Okay. Actually, what has made me more to go into activist program is because of the perception of people out there, how they look at people who are HIV positive, what they say, and the impact that it causes to the people who are living with HIV. That is the most reason that has made me to go into this activism program, because mostly negative perception out there is very, very high. So for me to go into this activism is to try to change the people's perception, to bring it into a positive perception. Thank you.
Okay, and maybe you can tell us, are you living positively?
Yes, I'm living positively
Okay.
since 2015.
Okay.
Sure.
So since 2015 up until to date, and how has the community accepted this?
Okay, so like I said, I'm living positively.
Yeah.
I only came to find out that I'm positive in 2015, but
Okay.
actually I've been living with the virus since childhood because my parents died from the same virus. I'm the only one in the family who is HIV positive.
Okay.
Yes. It wasn't an easy journey or an easy acceptance, so to say. For the community, I wouldn't say they welcomed it so easily because I was hiding my status at the moment I found out that I was HIV positive, because even I had negative thoughts towards HIV. So the moment I found out that I was HIV positive, my dreams were shattered.
Yeah.
I was like, how are people going to look at me? And very soon I'm going to die. Yeah, so even going back to the people I was with around, I never found a person who could say something positive about HIV.
Yeah.
Not until I was invited to some support groups at the facilities where I found people who are like me. Those are the only people who gave me an encouragement and the courage to live a positive life.
Yeah. To some extent, do you think that the community has a greater power on someone living positively, on how they react to others according to how they treat them?
Okay, for a person who is just finding out, the community has a greater power.
Yeah.
But if you learn to understand your status, I think as an individual you have the greater power to shut the community in the negative thoughts or whatever they are saying. Because once you understand, it's like if you're keeping a secret to someone, you live in fear when they know.
Yeah.
But if I tell everyone who I am, it's the people who are going to fear to say, if we are with him, we are not supposed to say bad things about it because he accepts his status.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You accepting and also others accepting, what advantages does coming out in the open and talking about your status openly, does it have? Both you and any other person.
Okay. Some of the advantages is that as a person who is living HIV positive, you become free.
Yeah.
I remember the time when I was in school, before I even came out public or telling people that I'm HIV positive, I used to feel afraid just to take my medication.
Yeah.
The doctor told me I'm supposed to take my drugs at 21. But if I have people in my room at 21, it means I'm not going to adhere to my drugs.
Yeah.
But if I'm open, it means I'll be free even to open that bottle to take my drugs, meaning my health will be more of to an advantage side than to a negative side, where the viruses in the body will start increasing, putting myself at risk and other people at risk.
Yeah.
So that's one of the advantages. Then the other advantage is that if you open up to a lot of people, they'll even remind you, this is your time to take your drugs. Maybe you've forgotten, they will remind you. So that is another advantage. Then it also reduces stigma and discrimination once you open up to the people that you are with, whether nearby or maybe they are far away, or your partners, your family, something like that. Sure.
Okay. And the peer groups that you have had, do you think that it is helping a lot of people from outside who are maybe HIV positive or negative to actually bring to light some of the information that many of the adolescents might not have? And apart from that, even accessibility to the prevention, the preventive measures that have been put in place. Does maybe peer groups have such?
Okay, for the peer groups, I think majority that I've met and I've spoken to, I've gotten very good feedback.
Okay.
It's helping out, and this is what is encouraging me to do even more, because most of the people, they are getting a very good example from me and saying, I think I can also be like Raymond. He has accepted his status. He's preventing himself from different vices so that he can stay healthy. So mostly I even engage people who are HIV negative in the peer groups so that they can come and learn this information, and they have access to the services at the hospital that they can want in the sexual reproductive health programs.
Yeah.
Sure.
Raymond, what is your greatest wish?
My greatest wish.
Even with the fight that you're actually putting up with HIV.
Okay, I think when it comes to HIV, my greatest wish is to see everyone talking positively about HIV. Yes, I want a community that will look at a person who is HIV positive and they are able to see a normal human being, because there's nothing that has changed apart from the status itself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's one wish. What's the second one?
Okay, the second one, I think, right, I've always told myself that I've given my life to the community.
Yeah.
So I'd love to reach a lot of people, to talk to a lot of people. Zambia, outside Zambia, so that they can hear my voice and learn from the way I'm living, so that they can also be healthier.
Yeah.
Like I am.
Okay, that's
Sure.
very good.
Yeah.
With the coming of preventive measures like PrEP, how do you think it is helping many, and also just the way things have been lightened up, the way maybe art was taken in the past and now there's a total different. And in other countries, of course, injectables are coming in now. Are we heading somewhere? Do you think that with time things are going to be much lighter than what we are able to see right now?
Hopefully we can find the cure for HIV.
I was hoping you were going to say that it's one of your wish.
Of course, it's everyone's wish. That one is a non-wish. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Of course, it's a non-wish. So for the PrEP and the PAPE, I think those drugs are really helping out in the preventive sector, where majority of the people, when they are exposed to HIV, they know that, okay, if I'm exposed to HIV within 72 hours, I'm supposed to go to the hospital to get this preventive measure. And when they get that, it is helping them to stay negative.
Yeah.
Of course, me being positive does not mean that I should also transfer the burden to another person. And this is why a person like me would adhere to my medication, and I'm strict because that is more like an emergency to me.
Yeah.
Whenever it's time to take my drugs, I take them correctly, the correct dose, and everything. I follow the procedures that are provided by the medical personnel.
Yeah.
The whole reason is to prevent another person from getting the virus too. So PrEP, yeah, it is working because it's helping a lot of people who are mostly afraid of the infection. Then PEP also, those in the discordant couple, yeah, mostly when one person is HIV positive, the other one is negative, and the positive one has a lot of viruses in the body, PEP, I mean, yeah, it does do some wonders to maintain their status.
Okay.
Sure.
Now, the local information out there is that living with HIV is actually costly. You have to look at the food, you have to balance and all that. Is that true? And is there a way in which one can try to run away from it and just live a normal life, looking at the fact that some of the people are coming from poor families and feeding becomes a challenge?
Okay. I think, like you have indicated, some of people come from poor families.
Yeah.
Yes, there is a bit of a challenge, depending with which family you're coming from, and depending with your economical state or the income that you have. I'll give an example of myself. I'm not on a full salary, but I'm maintaining myself, and going to the gym also requires someone to be eating a lot, eating healthy foods.
You are healthy, you're muscular.
Yeah, but even though I've maintained my healthy diet in a very cheap way, where I can just get some simple fruits like bananas. Bananas are cheap. Oranges, these simple fruits, and balance up with the local foods that we have, then you eat. You're not necessarily supposed to be eating meat every day or chicken on a daily basis for you to live a healthy life. Just use what is available. Then when it comes to the people in the villages, I think those are even advantaged because they have everything in the village. Those local foods, those are the healthy foods that we're talking about. A person like me even admire those people who are staying that side because...
Oh, come to my village, come to my village.
Sure. Because in town, mostly it's junk food. People would want to get hungry iron, this and that, which is not even healthy.
Yeah.
So it's on the 50-50 side when it comes to how costly life is. But again, it's a personal thing where you say, okay, my little money, I'll manage it in terms of buying such food and such food.
Okay. Now, what would be your word of encouragement to the public?
I think the word of encouragement to the public is if you find out that you are HIV positive, that's not the end of life. That's just the beginning of a new life. You live it, embrace it, love it. When you look at your drugs, make sure that you see life in it. People are always going to talk. Stigma and discrimination is real, but the moment you accept your status, you learn to forget what people say and focus on your healthy, because your healthy is very much important. So your life, your choice.
Well, you have heard for yourself. Raymond, thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you.
You have actually encouraged even me here.
Thank you.
You have heard, we started with the doctor. Now we've ended with Raymond, who has explained fully on how best you can actually protect yourself. And also, remember that when you are HIV positive, it's not the end of life, but rather a new beginning. And go for treatment when that time comes. I have been your host, Jubel Zulu, on Zaumoyo program here on Zanis TV. Thank you so much for watching us. We have had a topic of discussion of HIV. From me, Jubel Zulu, with the entire TV production, we say thank you so much for watching. Until next time.